Bayou Time Sports is brought to you by Terrible General Health System's Community Sports Institute in conjunction with Barker Honda.
And welcome back as we continue to talk with the honorees tonight. And Thomas Ski Roussel is one of them. What a night. What an honor. Tell me your thoughts.
Yeah, it's very nice. I mean, I never thought that growing up in Thibodaux that I would play sports at Southern Mississippi and in the NFL and then be recognized in the Bayou Region Hall of Fame.
Yeah. And what was it like all those years to play in the NFL? And you were there when not a whole lot of people were getting shots at it.
Yeah, well, you know, back when I played, when Robert Brunet played, back in the 60s and the 70s, it was a whole different ball game. The rules and the regulations have changed so much. I mean, you could block at the knee back then. Now you got to block above the waist. I mean, they've done everything they can to protect the players, and I understand why. It's because they've got such a huge investment in it today, and they didn't have that big of an investment, you know, with us years ago. So it was brutal.
When they called you and told you that you were getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, what went through your mind?
I said, "Is this Canton?" I said, "No, it was a nice honor. I mean, I was inducted in the Southern Miss Sports Hall of Fame back in 1977, and this is just a really nice honor to be, you know, accepted in your home area, and of course it is the Bayou region because Bayou Lafourche runs right through Thibodaux."
Right, there's no doubt. And of course, you got some names going in with you that have good credits behind their name, but even the ones that went prior, Don Schwab and all those people, I know you know them well.
Played high school football with those guys. I mean, they were older than me, you know, which is amazing for me to say that because at this point in my life, it seems like everybody's younger than me. But yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of great athletes that come from the Bayou region, there's no doubt. All the high schools, and there's a lot of guys that probably played high school football in this area that went other places that people just don't quite remember. I'm sure, you know, like yourself and like Stan, didn't quite remember me much because, I mean, I left and went to Southern Miss, and then I went to the Washington Redskins. And you know, and I never really came back to the area because I married a girl from Mississippi. So guess where we had to go?
It'll be a nice night for you tonight, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be a beautiful night. My wife's here. My second wife's here. My children are here. My grandchildren. So I'm very, very happy for them to be here to support me.
All right, congratulations, and I know they're signaling me to get some others up here. So enjoy your night.
Okay.
Congratulations. All right, bye-bye.
Kind of grew up right there in the heart of Thibodaux, right on President Street, and we used to walk to school and ride our bicycles, and of course when I was 10 years old I had a paper route. And then my mother married my stepfather, and they rented a house on East 5th Street, which is not very far from where we were living at the time. So I pretty much grew up there through high school. Thibodaux was a fun town. I had a lot of friends, and it was a great little town back then. It's changed a whole lot because I tell you, I didn't go back to Thibodaux for a long time, and when I did go back the first time, I almost couldn't find my way around. I wanted to be an astronomer. I mean, because I always liked the night sky and whatever, but you know, unfortunately, athletics and academics kind of took separate roads for me. When I was at Thibodaux High School, we had a graduating class of 106, I think, and half of those were girls. So in order to field teams that were, you know, competitive, there was a group of about 4 or 5 of us that played every sport. The only reason I ever went out for football was I was in junior high school, and there was an announcement that if you wanted to go out for football, you know, we had the long recess, and so halfway through the long recess they would blow a horn and all the guys could run off and go sign up for football. And I didn't hear the message. So we were out there playing a little touch football, this, that, and the other, and that horn blew, and all of a sudden all my friends took off. and I didn't know where they went. I said, well, what's going on? So I found out later, that what they were doing, and I was faced with the first serious decision I had to make in my life. Either go out for football or make a whole new set of friends. Football was definitely not my favorite sport. It was probably the sport I played the best, but and baseball was my favorite sport, and then probably basketball. And I loved track too because I was pretty good at that. I was a hurdler. Coach Tatum told me, he even said to me, I was having some emotional problems at one time. He brought me in his office to talk to me, and he said, don't you want to play at LSU? I said, I'd love to play at LSU. He said, well, you got to get on track. He said, we think that you have enough talent to even play in the NFL. And I went, oh yeah, right. When we played with Coach Tatum, he worked us really, really hard, but he never, ever treated us like dirt. And he never called us names, and he never took a swing at us or anything like that. We went to Baton Rouge for every home game and sat on the bench for all the games, and so we thought we were locks to get scholarships to LSU. But in the 11th hour, they pulled Mike Duncan and pulled Tom Roussel, and Barris Rodriguez was the only one that got the scholarship. And the ironic thing is that after his freshman year, he went for his sophomore year, and he had a physical, and they found out he only had one kidney, and they recommended he not play football. I got offered scholarship offers to USL and McNeese and I think Louisiana Tech and Northwest, and most of what was called back then the Gulf South Conference schools, Other than that, I didn't get anything from out of state other than Southern Miss. I remember when I was at Southern Miss, we played Alabama, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Georgia, and Auburn. We had pretty close to an SEC schedule as you could get because Southern Miss was trying to get into the SEC at the time. I remember we played Alabama in my sophomore year, my junior year, and that was when Alabama was ranked number 1, and their second team was ranked number 2, and their third team was ranked number 3 in the nation. It's like I tell people today, I said, the only reason I really ever played football was because I could play football. It wasn't because I was geared towards that. As a matter of fact, when I was in college, and after my senior year, I got letters starting my sophomore year from just about every NFL team to fill us out and do this and would send it back. I finally got tired of doing that, and I was throwing them away. And I never really thought of playing pro football. And then when the season was over and I played some all-star games, and the Senior Bowl was a lot of fun. It was different because we knew we were going to make some money. I think they paid the winners $1,000, and they paid the losers $750. And we won the game, so we got the $1,000. Well, I played in actually 3, because in the summertime, they took the higher drafted guys and made a team and played in college all-stars we played against the Green Bay Packers. They had just won their 3rd consecutive championship in the first 2 Super Bowls, and I got to play in that game with guys like Jim Kick and Claude Humphrey and Ron Yeri and Larry Zonka and a bunch of guys, Curly Culp. A lot of these guys are in the Hall of Fame. I knew the draft was coming up, but I didn't think about it. And I just got married, and my new wife and I had just moved to an apartment off campus, a brand new apartment. We didn't have a telephone yet. So I got in my car and I drove back to campus and I parked right by the coach's office. And I got out of my car and I was walking towards the athletic dorm to go talk to some guys about some classes we were going to take. And this sophomore kid comes walking towards me, and it was really kind of funny and ironic because he was from Louisiana too. He's from Dutchtown, Louisiana, right outside Baton Rouge. He said, "You need to go see Coach Van." I said, "No, I don't. I don't need to see Coach Van." I said, "I'm done. I don't have to run stadium steps anymore." And he said, "No, you need to go see Coach Van because you just got drafted in the 2nd round by the Washington Redskins, and you need to go up there and call that coach in Washington." That's how I found out I was drafted by the Redskins. Is it different today or what? Matter of fact, when I was drafted by the Redskins, one of the biggest sins you could commit was to talk to somebody about your contract, how much money you were making. Now, they loved for people to know. The aha moment really was when I got there. I realized, I said, my God, I got much, if not more talent than most of these guys, these linebackers that are here. There was only one guy there that I had the most respect for and probably learned more about how to play the game of linebacker in pro football than anybody. It was Chris Hanberger. He was the most cerebral linebacker I think I've ever seen in my life. He studied film, this, that, and the other, and he told me how to differentiate between a run and a pass. There was a guy that came from the Saints to the Redskins, and I asked him, I said, what's it like playing for the Saints? Because I said, I'm from Thibodeau, that's 60 miles away. He said, you don't want to go down there. He said, it's a cesspool of an organization. And I said, oh, it's just sour grapes for this guy because he's not there anymore. And so I get traded to the Saints and I go down there, and it didn't take me very long. That guy was pretty accurate. Going from Vince Lombardi to J.D. Roberts was just, I wish it could have been reversed, you know. J.D. Roberts was a nice guy, but he was in over his head. You know, he was too concerned about what the players thought about him rather than just putting together a good staff. They told John Meekum, if you want to fill that stadium, at the Sugar Bowl Stadium, you got to have big name ball players. So he went out and got Doug Atkins, Paul Hornung, Jimmy Taylor, and a lot of these guys that were way past their prime, but they had big names. What he didn't realize, he could have gone to St. Aug High School, dressed them out in Saints uniforms, and he'd have had 82,000 people in that stand. That's how hungry the people were. Okay, Archie's the starter. Ed Hargett was the backup guy, and the guy on the cap squad was Bobby Scott. Archie and Bobby Scott were rookies. Ed Hargett was going in his third season. So I said, my God, we got 3 years experience at quarterback. I said, we might be in trouble.
The left side was shared by Carl Cunningham, number 60, and Tom Roussel, number 54.
J.D. Roberts traded me to Atlanta, and guess who the coach was? It was Norm Van Brocklin, and I played for him in the college all-star game. We had a couple of little this, that, and the others, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I mean, I just don't think I'm gonna make this team, you know, and lo and behold, I didn't. So he cut me. So anyway, the World Football League had come about, and I got calls from like 3 or 4 teams, you know, and so I didn't even know what was going on. And so I ended up with Memphis because it was close to home. I didn't want to really go that far away. And then I get a call from this coach Spavital from the Chicago Fire, and he said, we've got your rights. He said, you can't play from Memphis. You either come here or you can't play. So I called the coach at Memphis. He said, Tom, that's right, I'm sorry. He said, we'd love to have you, but, you know, so I went up there. And I was just trying to stretch out my little boy life as long as I could, you know. But then when the World Football League folded, I was like 30 or 31 years old, and I got a couple calls from a couple of teams. Tampa Bay was an expansion team and whatever, and I said, you know, I'm 31, and they expect me to go into training camp and compete with these 21-year-olds to try to make a team. I said, I'm done. So I said, I got to get a real job anyway. So that was it. So I had a couple of sales jobs, and then I finally got in the oil and gas industry, and I did that for 35 years, and which was a lot of fun too. I got to do a lot of things. It was kind of almost like football from the standpoint, you know, when you're on the sales side, you get to entertain guys, so you get to go and do a lot of things, and you go hunting and fishing, and you know, you play a lot of golf and tennis and racquetball and all this kind of stuff. So a lot of it was kind of athletic, which I was still kind of into, you know. Had I not gone to Southern Mississippi, I wouldn't have met that little Mississippi gal that I married, you know. And she and I had 2 children, and you know, it was. But unfortunately, she got breast cancer and died 18 years ago. And I got lucky to marry this lady, and we met 10 years ago, and we got married 5 years ago, and we're just having a good time.
We met through parents of twins that I taught in junior high. I taught these 2 children, and their mom knew me, and their dad worked for Shell at the time and knew Tom. And he would go home and say to Linda, you know, there's this really nice man who comes in my office and you always talk about Jackie. Why don't we try to get them together? Which is so unusual, I think, for a guy to push that. So my husband had passed away about eight years before. And I hadn't dated anybody or anything. So when Linda contacted me, I said, you know what, I think I'm gonna take a chance. And it did help a little that he had been a New Orleans Saint.
I'd like to think that if I could go back, that I would take my academics in college more seriously, and I would train a lot harder to get ready to play football. Because, you know, back in those days, everybody had off-season jobs. So you couldn't, you know, we didn't have personal trainers and nutritionists and all this kind of stuff and everything. So we had to do, we work our jobs in the off-season because we had to supplement our income, not to mention the fact that we knew that once we got out, we were gonna have to become normal people and have normal jobs and to keep going. Because we didn't make enough money to play 8 or 10 years and sit on our butts the rest of our life because we got millions of dollars in the bank.
Football, his life, you know, what was it like? They still ask, who do you think's gonna win the games? They all wanna know. I have friends who'll say, we're watching a game, and I have one friend who absolutely loves the Saints. What's Tom saying? Are we gonna win? Is this gonna be okay? Now, he loves his golf every Friday, and I love that he loves that. I think it's awesome because he's got a lot of friends. He goes to Chateau and he plays every Friday. And I think, you know, that's important as you get older, that you have contact with your friends and you do something you enjoy. He says it's the only sport he can still play. His grandchildren, so to speak, are older. They are 14, 13, and 11, and mine are 2.5, 18 months, and 1. So when they get together, it's really fun.
When they found out I played football, they said, when did you play? I said, I played from 1968 to 1975. And I would say that over and over and over again. I got tired of saying it. So I said, I got to do something else to date myself. So they said, all right, when did you play? I said, I played before the word million was invented.
Our final Hall of Fame inductee for tonight, Thomas Ski Roussel.
Well, I got my support group anyway, so I don't feel so nervous. But anyway, I'd like to say that when I was growing up in Thibodeau, and all we'd ever did was play sports. And the funny thing is, we didn't have the devices that young kids have today, like iPads and cell phones and computers. And the only password we had was play ball. So that's all we did. We played and played and played. Didn't realize that I was prepping myself, I guess, for the future. And I was going to get lucky enough to play high school football, be just good enough to get a scholarship to Southern Mississippi. And then I developed there and had a great coach there named P.W. Underwood, who really probably made me the guy that I was. But because he was tough, but he was really fair. He kind of reminded me of Vince Lombardi. Lombardi was that way. And but I got to go to Southern Miss, met my wife, had my 2 wonderful children, my son Tommy and my daughter Lee Hall. And now I've got 3 grandchildren, Cherry, Charlie, and Emily. And they're all right up here with me, and I'm very proud of them. But anyway, after Southern Miss, to get drafted by the Redskins was an absolute surprise. It really was. I played in the All-Star games, had a lot of fun, but I really thought maybe I'd get a tryout, but I didn't realize I'd get drafted in the 2nd round. I mean, I thought maybe the later round or even a free agent. I wasn't really sure, but it worked out really well. And pro football was, it was kind of difficult for me because I had 5 different head coaches my first 5 years, and it's a little difficult to get a little traction in a sport like pro football when you always go into a new system. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. I played as hard as I could. And now, you know, I got out and I did what I did. I went to work for a great company called Tuboscope, which was a division of National Oilwell Varco. And I've got two of my friends that I worked with, Rick Jackson and Buddy Hotard, sitting over there. And I thank them for being here. And I want to thank all my family, my daughter-in-law Melissa, my sisters Ann and Linda and their families at the next table. And I want to give a shout out to my cousin Mary Catherine Blackburn and her husband Ed, because she is the daughter of my uncle John Bourgeois, who was probably my biggest fan growing up. And of course he couldn't be here, he's deceased, but she's here representing him, and I really appreciate her being here. But anyway, I want to thank the selection committee. I want to congratulate all the Hall of Famers from this year, and not just this year, but all the previous years. And thanks to the selection committee, and you know, it's been a wonderful experience. I didn't realize that it was going to be this large, you know, but it obviously is a great thing that you guys have going over here. Thank you very much.
Congratulations to Mr. Thomas Roussel, well deserved, and certainly you can watch these and all the inductions on Facebook, YouTube, and the HTV website. We'll be back with more on HTV.